There you go.
Awesome. All right, so we'll start in 3, 2. Hey everyone, it's KB, and I love movies. And today we have another conversation. Today I am with John from PlaidX2. And if you know his channel, he's about movies, music, and books. A lot more than a lot of us BlueTubers that just focus on the movies. So he brings a vast amount of interest with him and hobbies. So this has been a long time coming. I'm glad to finally have him with me. How's it going, John?
Good, KB. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, man, it's my pleasure.
I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah. Well, why don't we just hop right into it? I always like to do something a little off kilter from just movies. With you, it's going to be easy because I could talk movies, I could talk music, I could talk books. I watched a couple of your hauls, and I see you've been getting into the vinyl game, as we say. So my question is, what is the last vinyl album you purchased?
Well, that's easy, actually. I was going to say it's going to be tough because this past weekend I went to a flea market. There's no flea markets in my area. I went to a flea market, and there's this sweet elderly lady. I was worried about to leave because there was nothing there of value that I was interested in anyway. And I was leaving, and I saw this elderly woman with a truck, like an old beat up pickup truck filled with boxes of vinyl. And so I went over, and she goes, "Oh, it's all $1 each." And I said, "All right, I'll go through it." So I went through, and I think I pulled 11 records out, and she's like, "Oh, just give me $8 for it." And so I picked up those, and she said, "Hey, my husband's at a church yard sale tomorrow, and he's got 27 boxes of this collection." Oh. So I went there and I picked up 8 more, and he gave them to me for like $5. So I ended up picking up, 19 records. So I was going to say it's tough to tell you the one, but today I did stop at a Goodwill, and I picked up a Dean Martin Christmas album on vinyl. So.
So that must be the one with "Baby It's Cold Outside" on it.
It's so I went on. I have it here somewhere. I went on iTunes today, and it's Marshmallow Town or something. I'd never heard of the song, but on iTunes it's the most popular one. So it must be maybe the only recording you did of it on that album. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm a huge Christmas fan, and I love Christmas music, that old stuff. So yeah. I just recently picked up 2 Nat King Cole Christmas albums. So yeah.
My daughter, we have this thing like no holiday jumping. And she's broken that a long time ago because she's missed Christmas in July.
Yeah.
And, it's just the joy that it brings to her.
Yeah.
So, she pays me the honor of not playing it around me. But have her way, it could be 100 degrees outside like it has been here lately. And she could be like listening to the Christmas song by Nat King Cole. So
crazy.
That's my favorite album, by the way.
Nice.
My favorite Christmas album.
So good.
It's a classic.
Oh,
it's what I grew up with. So I guess that leads me into how's the not a collection going of vinyl records.
Well, it's this weekend it grew by 19. I actually did give a bunch to my sister, and I picked up another one for a friend here in the movie collecting community. But it's going well. I absolutely love it. I told myself originally it will only be thrift store stuff. And then it was, well, this would be a great album to have. So I got to have Bob Marley's Exodus. So I grabbed Marley's Exodus. And then it was Jack White just came out with a brand new album, and it's cheap because it just came out. So I grabbed the new album. And then the Black Keys just came out with a new record. And I was like, I had the CD of it, and I was like, oh, that would sound amazing on vinyl. Yeah. So I would say I would have less than 10 new records, and then probably 40 or 50 thrift store used stuff. So, yeah.
And not to ignore the books part, what's an interesting book that you've read lately?
Read is tough because the schedule's been nuts. But I recently picked up 2 books. One is on, I find these books, some people may find these books morbid. I find them incredibly interesting. I came across a YouTube channel of a woman who's a mortician, and she'll answer any questions you have on death and the process and embalming and all that kind of stuff. And it sounds like a super dark channel, but she's really funny and like it's a bright channel. But so she wrote a book about her experiences being a mortician and what it's like, that process. And then another one was upon, I just picked it up at Goodwill, on the process of dying, like the dignity in death. And so the book's really about how amazing this moment is that we're in. Like, this is a gift that we have. And this is a part of, it's the end of all of our stories, but you can do it really well. And so anyway, part of my job is I lead a support group for people who are going through grief, who've lost children, parents, siblings, husbands, wives. So I do read a lot of this stuff in just trying to help coach and walk with people who are walking through the grieving process. So that's why I buy books on death, which may be morbid for some, but it's actually a really positive thing. So
it's like your own version of 6 Feet Under with that YouTube channel.
Yeah. So yeah.
Now,
so
just getting into like movie stuff and YouTube and so forth. Anytime I say John, I have to say John from PlaidX2, or I just say PlaidX2 and people know the channel. What's the story behind the title of the channel?
This will be very underwhelming, and
that's fine. I got a lot of questions.
I was in college. I started college in '96, and that's when internet was really hitting, and like email. So Hotmail came out, and I was in our computer lab at our college. It's this little small college, and it still had the crazy printout printers that you had to like rip the pages apart, and so it's like old school. And yeah, and I had to start an email account. So I was like, I know what to wear. It's mid '90s. I'm a huge grunge music fan, so I looked down, and I had 2 different plaid shirts on. I had one that I was wearing that day, and then this other big flannel plaid one that I had thrown over my shoulders because I was outside Canadian weather. So I looked down, I had 2 plaid shirts on. I was like, PlaidX2. So that's
and it just stuck.
Yeah. So I've used it for a bunch of different things. Yeah. So it just stayed 25-ish, 6-ish years ago. Yeah.
It's amazing how like monikers just stay with you. I found a tape that I recorded, like probably music off of the radio or whatever. And the moniker that I was using, and like I had a DJ name, even though I wasn't a DJ at the time. And then through college, I had a DJ name. And after a while, people were like, well, what's your real name? I was like, just say KB. And that stuck.
Really?
And I would say for the last 20 years or so, that has been like my moniker for everything. Just say KB, because the name's in there, the initials are in there. And if you can't remember anything else, you just remember those 2 initials, and it's easy enough. And then when I was starting the channel, I'm like, I just want to share my love for movies. KB loves movies. And it just went from there.
That's awesome.
Because I figured if I put just say KB, people wouldn't know exactly what the channel was about. So it kind of describes what the channel is in the name.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's fun when you have that and you can take it with you for that long. Like I've used it for email addresses. I've used it for some publishing stuff. I've used it for everything. And I don't have to think about it anymore. I'm just like, I'll use that.
Yeah. Blogs.
Absolutely. I did have a blog up. Yeah. Instagram, everything. It's the same. Yeah.
Well, from watching your channel, you kind of glean like certain things about people. You know, you get to know like characteristic traits or things they love, or in our case, movies that we love. Do you remember the first time you seen Rocky?
To be honest, I don't remember it, because I think when I was a kid, I probably would have seen like portions of it.
Being rated R, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember, but I will say the most significant time I saw it was, it would have been 2016. I was a month away from moving from Canada back to the US after having done a short stint back home in Canada. And a friend of mine told me their local movie theater was showing the original Rocky in theater.
Nice.
And I was in tears at the end. I was like, this was what it would have been like in the 70s to be at Rocky. And I know you saw it while getting froyo the same day.
Frozen yogurt, life changing.
so although it wasn't my first time, it was the coolest time to see it in the theater, having missed it in theater and getting to just, it was in the sound system, the space. It was awesome.
Yeah, I love any opportunities like that to see movies that either I missed when I was a kid or maybe revisit them. Like a local theater here next month is showing E.T. for the 40th anniversary.
Wow.
And I don't remember if I saw E.T. in the theater or not. I just knew that it was, Phenomenon and Reese's Pieces and all that good stuff. So I might actually go and see it just for the anniversary, even though, I got the 4K sitting right in there. There's something about that big screen experience that can't be duplicated no matter how nice your home theater is.
Absolutely.
There's something about it. And the shared experience, too, of seeing other movie lovers such as yourself.
That's awesome. You should definitely do it.
Yeah. 1978, what does that mean to you as far as movies?
Well, I was born that year. So, I don't have, it's funny, in my collection, I don't have a lot. Stephanie recently gave me a few months ago, The Deer Hunter, which I have not seen yet, but I've got that.
Tough watch.
Somebody told me that when they heard that I had received it, they said, it's unbelievable. And they said, I won't watch it again, but I loved it. It's what their response to it. And then there's Fist, F-I-S-T, the Stallone movie. I have not seen, but that's been on my radar to pick up.
Yeah.
So for me, what it represents for movies is a gap of what I've never seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be nice just to I don't know, IMDb or Wikipedia or whatever, and just go back and just see how many of those movies from that year coincide with titles that you've heard of before.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, I should pick that up, or, borrow that from the library or whatever the case may be, just to see it for the first time. I try to do that with specific directors. I think I mentioned last year I focused on Alfred Hitchcock, the blind spots that I either didn't have or never seen before. I'm going to do the same thing again with Martin Scorsese, just to kind of round out filmographies.
Yeah.
So, that's something fun to do.
And historically, if I watch through the 70s stuff, I'm seeing what was happening culturally the year I came into the world.
Yeah.
I found at a thrift store the entire box set of Welcome Back, Kotter, and I'd never seen an episode, but that's when my parents were dating just before they got married. And I was a year later after that. And so I was like, I have to watch this to see culturally what the jokes were, the fashion was while my parents were dating. So it's part of the reason I picked it up, just historically to see what was going on.
Bell bottoms and Vinnie Barbarino before he made Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite era of movies?
Yeah, it would be 30s and 40s. Yeah.
I figured as much.
Yeah, by far.
For those that probably haven't frequented your channel or don't know about your love, explain your love for the great Jean Arthur and her filmography.
So the first film I saw of hers, and I didn't pick it up because she was in it. I picked it up because of Jimmy Stewart, was Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. And I watched Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and she is the one who captivated me. Her comedy, because typically in those years, you have women, it's kind of the man is the star, and they're kind of they play to her or to him, but she was really toe to toe with Jimmy Stewart, and in wit, how sharp she was, funny. And so as soon as I saw that film, I thought I got to see everything she was ever in. And so I picked up probably 2 more of her films. And then after that, I was like, I got to buy it all. So I think I have everything except for 3 films that have been released of hers, but they're on really budget DVDs. So the picture is almost unwatchable.
Yeah.
But everything.
You're just waiting for those upgrade announcements to come out. I mean, that's pretty cool. just talking about completing director's filmographies, to have an entire filmography of an actor is, I think it's amazing. And it really is kind of like just watching the timeline of you piecing it together through halls and goodwill trips and stuff like that. It's pretty amazing. And it really shows how much you care about her as an actor and her filmography. I mean, there's some great movies in there, like you mentioned, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and everything. And yeah, that is amazing.
One of the ones I have that I'm most excited about is she has an uncredited role as a secretary in a Seven Chances, 1925 with Buster Keaton. She's uncredited in the film, and she's a secretary in that silent film. So it's really fun. And then her last film was Shane, and her only movie. Color film. Everything else was in black and white. And then she did one episode of Gunsmoke. It would have been 12 years later, I think, almost 12 years. And then nothing else. She didn't do anything else. She retired very early and was very much a recluse. And so I bought that one single season to have that episode of hers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, think about it. Her career spans the changing over of the sound format. So to go from the silent films to the talkies, all the way up to and past the invasion of television.
Yeah.
And to have, a filmography that covers all those bases, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm a huge fan.
Yeah. Talking about huge fan, and I just love this story. I'm just going to go back to it. Please tell the Dumb and Dumber story.
Oh, my wife and I, we got married. We didn't have two nickels to rub together. I was in college. She just graduated. I had one more year left. And my in-laws, they gave us an old VCR of theirs, an old TV of theirs that we could borrow till we got our own. And so we got those, but we had no movies to watch. And so my father-in-law had a decent collection. And so I said, can I borrow Dumb and Dumber? And he's like, absolutely. So I borrowed that. And again, I had no movie collection. I had no money. And where we lived, our first apartment was bottom floor in a basement. And so you couldn't even get like reception with bunny ears to get something. So the only thing we had, if we want to watch TV or a movie, is Dumb and Dumber. And we would pause it or hit stop. And then next time we wanted to watch a movie or watch TV, it's Dumb and Dumber. And we just pick up where we left off. And so there was a few times where I would I'd get enough change where I would roll nickels or dimes and would take it to a rental store to rent something else. But for the most part, it was 12 months of Dumb and Dumber. And so for us, it's we can quote it. We quote it to each other all the time still, 20 plus years later. And for our 20th anniversary, that's what we watched. And so, I still have the DVD of it, and I've got a VHS copy I found at a Goodwill.
Now compare that one VHS tape to your collection today.
I'm doing okay. I've got plenty to watch now.
I watched this documentary the other day. It actually has a couple of YouTubers that we both follow called Movie Hoarders. And it's amazing to see these collections that, go into the thousands. And I'm sure none of them ever thought they would own that many movies when they got started, whether it was VHS days or DVD days. And just to, see that then, and then see where they are now. It's even me, I guess, I'm approaching 1,000 as far as movies.
Nice.
And it's like to see where I started when it was just VHS tapes and watching the same ones over and over and using a rewinder so I don't pop the tape accidentally. Just amazing.
That's awesome.
Just to transition a little bit. Since you started the channel, your exposure to a certain genre has increased, let's say. Has your appreciation for horror movies grown at all?
So I watched what I watched. I watched Carrie last year and Halloween I watched. So I would say Halloween, because people go nuts for that movie, like every year, every fall. And I will say, will I watch it again? Probably not. I didn't find it scary, which
It's not.
people said it's not scary.
Mm-mm.
But I will say the aesthetic of it all, like that fall feeling, is amazing. And I can totally see why it's such an iconic film and why every time the fall rolls around, people have to watch it. So I get it, and I really appreciate that of it.
Yeah. So you're a girl dad, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. As a girl dad, what movies can't you wait to share with her? Besides Carrie and Halloween.
I'll be telling her, don't ever watch those. I was telling her the other day, I'm excited about Lord of the Rings with her. Yeah. And even like movies like Tommy Boy, there's just a little bit of stuff in there that at her age, she's definitely not ready for. But the humor in it is so good. And he was such a sweet human being. So yeah, you know what? I threw a couple of Avenger films in the other day, and I was deciding if I want to keep them in the collection because I don't watch them that often. Yeah. And so I popped it in, and she came into the room. And so she watched a few clips, and she was captivated. And she's like, Dad, it was the first Avengers film. Dad, who are they fighting here? Like, who are they? And so I was explaining it, and she's like, do they do another mission? And I was like, well, yeah, there's the Age of Ultron. And she goes, and who do they fight there? And
there's 22 other movies, girl.
And she goes, is there another mission? And I was like, yeah. So anyway, so I recently picked up the third and fourth one on 4K. And so I'm looking forward to watching those with her because she really is into that stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of those kind of films. She watches some black and white with me. She thinks Charlie Chaplin's funny. She wouldn't watch the whole film, but she does find them funny.
Or physical comedy.
Yeah, and kids really relate to that, the physical comedy. So that's why I think she'd love Tommy Boy, because Chris Farley was so physical.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dumb and Dumber would be one that would be great to watch with her someday. Definitely the comedies that I'm excited to watch with her.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember back. I have 3 kids. My son is the oldest, and I have 2 daughters. And the only one I could remember as far as movies was we had people over. I think it was Thanksgiving, and I drove them to the train station. And as I walked back in the house, my wife met me at the door, and she's like, "Look at what your son is watching." And I went into the living room, and he's watching just on regular TV, whatever the local Fox channel was. He was watching episode 1 of Star Wars.
No way.
And it was the pod race scene. So I kind of sat next to him. I was like, "Hey, buddy, you like this?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "You want to see more after this?" "Yeah." And I birthed another generation of Padawans.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Star Wars will be fun.
Yeah, he knows more about Star Wars stuff than I do now.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I lived it, but he's living it in this generation, so it's really interesting. I'm going to get serious for a moment here. So I was reading this thing. It says, you could tell a lot about a person by their music choices. It kind of talks about their character traits or their personality traits or whatever. So with that in mind, what role, and this is me just going off of some of your hauls and seeing the type of music that you pick up, everything from a Nat King Cole to a Bob Marley or what have you. But what role has spirituality played in your physical media collection and more directly in your life?
It's core. It's everything. Everything, hopefully, I do in my character as a human being is centered around that. It's something that my daughter would tell you is the center of my life, and it matters to her, and that's important to me.
It's good that she knows.
Yeah, music, movies, and books. What I My mom, she's so funny. Growing up as a kid, she always said, and so this is the 80s. She was, it's all of us kids. Your head is a computer, and whatever you put in, that's what you're getting out. And so it actually does play a role in even what I allow in to me. So for music, there's certain music with my personality that if I listen to that constantly, I end up in a pretty dark place. Like it's not good for me to be into that all the time while I appreciate it and enjoy it. So yeah, spirituality actually does mean a lot to me, and it's the center of my life. Everything revolves around that. And everything.
I have a friend, he's a drummer, just a drum. He has to drum. So he's in a death metal band, he's in a bluegrass band, he's in a country band, and he plays like jam sessions with his dad ever since he was 10 years old. And he says his communion is making music.
It's good.
He doesn't say what genre of music, what type of music. He's like making music, taking this and coming together and making something. And it's sacred and it moves you.
Yeah.
And the same thing for a lot of movies. You have a lot of secular movies that moves you. I can't get to the end of Return of the King and have a dry face.
Sure.
And it's mostly to do with the song that plays. It's by Annie Lennox called Into the West during the credits. I have to turn off the movie to avoid and I can't tell you why. The song just moves me. But that's the beauty of it. You can find that beauty in any type of, art, any type of music or movies or books. Put down a good book at the end and, sit there because you're overwhelmed with emotion.
Yeah.
So it really could be anything.
I think Switchfoot, I might be misquoting them, but it was them or somebody else. They were talking about like how the label thing isn't helpful. Like, and it's like for Beastie Boys, you wouldn't call them a Buddhist rap group, but they were Buddhists, or at least I think two of them at least were. But you don't ever refer to them as that, but you do. So anyway, for me, again, it comes down to what are they saying? And does that reflect my values and what my spiritual values, my faith values? And so that's why I can look at Rage and look at U2 and look at Crowder and go, all of these are reflecting this thing that means the most in the world to me.
Yeah. U2 is another good one.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, for our conversation, I just want to thank you for your time. I have one more question, and this is probably the question that I've had for you since I won't say day one, but I'll say almost day one. So you have a series on your channel called The Five. Give everyone a little overview of what that is.
So I bring on collectors. Some people have movie channels, some people don't. Bring them on to talk movies, and I ask 5 questions, and the person who is on will respond to each of the questions with 5 films per question. And so that's the format of it. 5 questions, 5 films per question as a response. Yeah.
Have you ever done a 5?
Soon. I have not, but
I'd say we should do one.
All right. Absolutely. It'll be good.
So what we'll do is this is going to be part 1, and this will be on my channel. And in a few minutes, we'll record part 2, and that will be on John's channel. So if you're paying attention here, go ahead, follow the link that will be below, and we will take you to John's channel for his version of The 5.
Cool.
Until then, we'll see you next time. Go watch a movie.